If you would rather listen to this episode as a podcast so you can download it or listen on the go, you can click the link in the description to check out our Spotify page where we upload all of our reviews and longer content as podcasts. Hello and welcome back to the Plocast. We're here with our second to last review for the Bad Batch this season. Kind of sad to say, we're coming up on the end of the season, so it means the end of the videos in the series for the time, but that's okay. But man, what a banger it was! Season 1, episode 15, Return to Kamino. I was questioning what number episode it was there for a second, but we do know. And yeah, normally I have my notes all lined up and orderly in the direction that we're going to take the episode. I did not do that today. I just have them all written down in random order. So we're going to see what happens.
Yeah, we're just going to go for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's worked out like that before, so we're fine.
Yeah.
Starting out with the biggest thing from the episode is our forgotten batch boy, Crosshair. He is the star, I guess, of this episode, or one of the main stars. Him and Hunter. The two of them have some great dialogue. Some of the best, lines and character in the whole season, I'd argue.
Yes.
But I mean, just this thing, like all the moments where you can tell that Crosshair feels betrayed and abandoned by his team and by Hunter. It just really hits you when he starts talking about it. What are your thoughts when we're hearing him like gush to Hunter, like you guys, I hate you all.
I loved it. I loved how they're building up Crosshair, or have been. And I love that they gave him a chance to speak and really say what he's been thinking. Because earlier in our reviews, we were talking about how the Bad Batch doesn't really have a place in the universe now the war is over.
Right.
And we thought that, they would go find the role. And Crosshair tells us and tells Hunter and the Bad Batch that he has found his role. He has found what he's supposed to be doing, at least according to him, and that's serving the Empire. And hearing him try to convince the others to join, the fact that he didn't just kill them or arrest all of them outright, and that he actually does want them to join is awesome to me. That means there's still Crosshair underneath. What the big thing that I'll address is he says he doesn't have his chip, or it's not the chip telling him to stay with the Empire, which is crazy. I honestly want to believe him because I think that makes his motivation more powerful and compelling. Because I feel like everything he said in his little, dialogue with Hunter makes sense. I feel like if he's being honest and he doesn't have the chip, it could be in character for him, and it just shows how he's developed through this series. And I really like that, and I really liked more than anything that they gave him a chance to explain all of that.
Yeah. It's we have no idea if it's true or not, if the chip has been removed. He said the chip was removed. But there's a lot of different things here that are playing into it. He has the very conveniently placed burn on the right side of his head.
Yep.
About in the same spot where a chip scar would be. So that's their way of like, oh well, we can't really tell, because if he had it taken out before the incident, then you really wouldn't see the scar, or he hasn't had it out yet at all, or whatever. But if you remember at the beginning of the series, I'm assuming when he still had his chip in, they like enhanced it or whatever, because they realized that his was working a little bit. I guess it's possible that once they enhanced the chip, that was basically just transferring its properties to his brain or something like that. And then at that point, regardless of whether you get the chip out or not, the effects are lasting and stuck on his head and his brain, which could be an interesting theory. Or they could have manipulated him into believing that his chip was removed. That's another theory that I've seen, going around a little bit. And I think that's definitely possible. That would be a big reveal shocker moment for him when they, I don't know, maybe they take him to a lab and they strap him down and he sees that the chip is still in there. He's like, what? But they told me that it was out, or, something like that. I have no idea. I feel like they're definitely keeping it that way on purpose, especially with the burn scar. feel like that's no accident as where that's placed. It's meant to cover up where a potential scar would be, or inhibitor chip scar anyway. But what do you think the truth is here? I'm leaning more towards that they're like lying about it, or that it's already imprinted on his head. But what do you think?
So much going on. We knew so little about the chips before Clone Wars, even before Bad Batch. We know even less about that surgery they did to enhance on Crosshair. So honestly, it could be any number of possibilities. For me, though, I kind of do want to believe that it's out, or that maybe it just fried his brain so much that I think more than anything, Crosshair is in passenger seat, more or less. Um, he's not very brainwashed, at least not as much as he was in the beginning. And I think that because of just how much he was speaking, it really to me felt like that was Crosshair saying the things he said, which I actually enjoy. But I could see it going any other way and be like, okay, just as long as they flesh it out more, because, like you said, like we really like don't know, like it could be
Right.
any number of things.
Yeah, I agree. There's also a lot of there's a lot of branches that could come out of this, like different. How does he have it in? Yes. Okay. Well, does he react like this or this? Does he have it out? Yes. Okay. Does he do A or B? Um, I hope that it's not, you know, okay, so he still does have it. They take it out, and then he's just completely back to normal. I kind of would not like that. I like the fact that Crosshair feels betrayed and that he feels abandoned by his brothers. I think that's a very real thing that, probably doesn't have to do with the chip. I mean, yeah, it's possible that the chip enhanced those feelings. Maybe the real him doesn't feel that as much as he's showing. It's like buried a little bit more and the chip brought it out. But if they're like gonna like unbrainwash him or whatever and try to bring him back, I hope they don't completely erase like his feelings and what has happened to him and just make it like nothing ever happened and they can just joke about it because that's a very compelling thing. How why he feels the way he does, and why he's been showing all this hatred and anger and emotions towards his old team. Little side comments like we didn't have a choice, but I did. So I hope they keep the aspect where he, you know, feels let down almost by them and betrayed and abandoned. But I feel like a lot of different options could be pretty interesting, and I'm sure they have an interesting conclusion for it, or cliffhanger maybe. But I hope they keep the dramatic element here, and they don't just, oh, we're back to normal, everything's fine, because something needs to come out of this. I feel like.
Yeah, I would hate to see like a cop out like that, or just like, oh yeah, it doesn't really matter anymore. It'd almost
Mm.
be like bringing Palpatine back or something after you kill him off in
Yeah, I
Return of
can
the
imagine that ever happening. Like, we're so lucky that
Jedi.
there isn't a movie that has done that.
Yeah, could you imagine something that cheesy?
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, from Crosshair's point of view, I totally get it. At this, we know something's been done to his head to the point where he, sees the Empire as the great savior. It's not even really that. He just sees the Empire as something that is there that he can be a part of and be this sort of elite soldier in. It seems like he just cares about being like recognized as this super soldier among the ranks of the Empire. Um, so in his mind, you have, okay, they're abandoning me for like nothing, for the Republic, which is nothing anymore. Instead, they could have this empire if they chose. They're also replacing me with this little girl clone that they just met like today. They didn't even try to help me, like. So from his point of view, I really see where he's coming from. They're picking uh the Republic, which is something that doesn't exist anymore, and this girl instead of him. And like especially what they did to his chip and whatever is going on inside his head, that's all enhanced. So like his family essentially just like abandons him and like replaces him essentially. And it's definitely deserved the feeling he has. It's not just out of nowhere, and it's not 100% Empire meddling. It's a lot of what he's feeling, I feel, is deserved. But I don't know.
No, I think the coolest part about it too, is the fact that he offers them to come to the Empire.
Yeah,
It's not like he captured them and said, "No, we're gonna put chips in your head, or we're gonna do this experiment on you." No, he kills his own buddies, the elite squad, and he's like, "Hey, join with me. Like, come with me. Not just come, you guys. I'm forcing you to. It's with me because they're still family to him. Yeah, at least it seems like so." To me, that's why again I think that it's Crosshair who's saying this.
yeah,
But I think again, like this whole thing is really compelling, and this this is exactly like the type of stuff I wanted from the beginning. So it's kind of cool
yeah,
to see it play out, and I can't wait for to see what happens next.
definitely.
But yeah,
I probably should have brought this up when we were talking about the chips, but there was a moment when they were in the arena or whatever, and they were fighting the like prototype Death Trooper bots that we saw in the first episode, and like Crosshair like rubs his head for a second, like he grabs like his forehead and he's like grimacing and he's like rubbing it almost, which I feel like had to be intentional, unless it's like ouch, I bonked my head, it hurts, but I don't know.
hmm.
I feel like at this point, they're leaving stuff for us to pick up on. They've been doing that. They did that earlier in the season with Wrecker's whole arc with his chip.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I feel like that could also be something. Sorry, my dog's barking. I don't know what she's barking at. Um, but yeah, I had a question that I've been thinking about. If the
Ooh.
chip was removed, when? Because I don't know if it's just because of like us slowly learning more about how Crosshair is feeling, but it seems to me that after a certain point in the show, Crosshair became less droid guy who's just, taking orders. He kind of turned into having more emotion. You could see it in his face more. He would look angrily like at the batch, or like when he thinks about them, he's mad, or he would be showing like these, different ranges of emotions that I feel like earlier on were absent. He was kind of just plain faced Empire guy. Let's do it. I'll just do my job, whatever. And then slowly, it kind of I feel like, especially in the Ryloth episodes, we kind of saw more of him. Like when he got permission to go hunt them down, he was like really mad, and then he started grinning because he's like, finally I get to go confront them, which I feel like is something we wouldn't have seen at the beginning of the season. So I'm thinking, if it was removed, would the chip have been taken out? Because I mean, it could have been immediately when he was in the room. They like zapped him, whatever, and then they took it out immediately. But we didn't really see a scar or anything after that. So I feel like it's kind of weird in the timeline where exactly he hypothetically had his chip removed. So I wanted to know what you thought about that.
I definitely agree. There's been a change in his, I guess, like mannerisms. Um, we both said it even before, like during the Ryloth episodes and stuff, that like it seemed like he was more passionate and more kind of aggressive towards the Bad Batch. If I could say like a point, it would be I forget the episode, but when the bounty hunters come back and he gets his face fried
Yeah,
at
episode 8, I
or
think.
Cad Bane, yeah. Um, I would say then,
That's
but
exactly what I was thinking.
that could also be just, oh, they melted his face, so now he's angry. Like it doesn't have to be the chip.
Right.
Um, but and this is why I say that. I have another question. If it's out, why would the Empire take it out? Like if we are to believe Crosshair, why would the Empire take out his chip?
Yeah.
What
That
interest is it
yeah.
of them? Like none of the other clones we've seen have it out yet. We saw Hauser and a couple of his, I guess, uh, squad mates. I don't know, the ones who rebelled with him. They presumably still had it in though.
Right.
And if it's defective, sure, but like, why would you take it out? So that's, I guess that goes against me, like me believing Crosshair. Why would he take it out? I
Yeah.
don't know.
I guess that if they have the I don't know the word, but if they're willing to remove it, then he must not need it. So that is
Yeah.
more evidence for the case that whenever whatever they did to him, initially at the beginning of the season when they messed around inside his head, made it so that the chip was no longer needed, and whatever they did there made it so that he was just totally, under their control pretty much without the need of the chip. Another thing could be since they're pushing the uh, Operation War Mantle, it could be just more of another step in sort of going away from the clones because we know Crosshair's elite squad is all human recruits. Maybe taking out that chip kind of makes him more like them, just to sort of help. I don't know. There's if I feel like if they didn't need the chip anymore, then they would have been fine taking it out. It's not like they took it out and said, "I wonder what's going to happen here."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's that, but at the same time all throughout the show, we've seen that Admiral Rampart really does not care what happens to them, pretty much, because they're an experimental unit just to test what it's like having human recruits. Uh, but I don't think that Rampart really cares, honestly, because he said, "Oh well, if he fails, then he'll die with the others or whatever." In the last episode, behind Crosshair's back, he's always talking about how like he doesn't even like the clones and that they're just this group is just whatever if they lose, oh well. So I feel like they've just done they have enough control to where it really doesn't even matter what happens to Crosshair. Which is an interesting point because Crosshair believes he's like one of their top priorities right now, that he's like one of their most elite soldiers that's, at the forefront of this empire that's steamrolling through the galaxy. He's like I don't know, at the head of the ship, I guess, but in reality, he's just like a puppet, like a test dummy. Which, that there's so like this is all different things, but it's all connected, and I'm just really excited to see where they take it, honestly. But yeah, I mean, how about you? What do you think if they had a purpose for taking it out, if there was to be any, what would that be?
No, I think you made a good point. I feel like it's like almost Crosshair like asked Rampart, he's like, "Hey, can I take it out?" And Rampart, like you said, really doesn't care.
Yeah,
Um, he probably saw it as an opportunity to manipulate Crosshair. Maybe he knew that the chips would wear off eventually, and to kind of win Crosshair's loyalty, he's like, "Yeah, you know what? I will take it out for you." Meanwhile, like that
right.
really doesn't mean anything. It means nothing to Rampart. But that makes Crosshair, like you said, think he's like, oh, he's like an elite. Like they like him here. They're gonna take out his chip. They're gonna be nice to him. And all the while, it's really Rampart like manipulating him. Like he doesn't care. He dies. He dies. Like
Yeah,
I think that yeah, I kind of like that interpretation of it. Because honestly, besides that, my best idea was like maybe it just costs too much to keep it in, or I don't know, maybe some other silly reason the Empire's just like,
yeah.
yeah, take him out, whatever. But
That could be
yeah,
like,
I think apathy would be like one of the major things.
yeah,
Like, get rid of them. Who cares? Like, we're getting rid of the clones anyway. You know?
yeah. That that's another sort of manipulation tactic. If they secretly, did whatever they did to the chip and his head to make him, you know, fully under the control of the Empire, he doesn't know this, he still thinks it's the chip. They could remove the chip and then they would force him to assume that, oh, I like the Empire because I like the Empire and it's my own free will because I don't have my chip. When in reality, they've just, brainwashed him to the point where they don't even need the chip, and it's just to trick him into believing that this is really what he wants. Instead of, because even if he had the chip, there would always be that possibility of someone telling him that the chip is there and making him think, is this really what I believe? But when you have the chip removed from the equation and you just trick him into thinking that this is him and this is actually what he wants, that's a whole nother level of control that you don't have if the chip is still there, because that's an element that can be used against the Empire. Somebody bringing up the chip to him, like we saw Hunter try to do, and then Crosshair flipped on it. I don't have it, so we can already see that strategy, if that's what's actually happening, worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah, and like this is the Empire we're talking about, so something like this would be right up their alley.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, we get to Kamino, and we'll talk about the what happens a little later on. We'll get there towards the end, but um, we know now that the Empire has Nala Se, and they're cloning scientists, um, which I guess we should have all seen coming anyway, because by the time of the Mandalorian, the Empire clearly has already been experimenting with cloning technology. And I think it's pretty safe to assume that Nala Se was probably a big part of the operations that we saw with Dr. Pershing in The Mandalorian. Um, it might have even been you. I can't remember, but I saw somewhere or I heard from someone that it would make sense that because I think it was you, it might have been you, that Pershing really he didn't want to hurt Grogu. He just wanted to do their tests, and he didn't want Grogu killed, and he was very protective. That's something that we've seen so far with Nala Se. In this episode, or was it the last one? The one where she was with the cadets. She was trying to take the cadets off Kamino to save them from whatever was coming. She hired bounty hunters to protect Omega. So if she is like a sort of head or in a higher position in this cloning, whatever operation for the Empire, if that, trait was kind of passed down through as she trained people or whatever, because in The Mandalorian, Pershing is not like this evil, maniacal scientist who wants to you take all Grogu's blood and then kill him. He's still protective of it. He asks Din when Din comes to rescue him. He doesn't know he's coming to rescue him, so he's like, "Please don't kill it or don't hurt it or whatever." So I feel like that could be pretty interesting. So Nala Se and the Kaminoans in general having a bigger part in the Empire's cloning technology is pretty cool, and probably something we should have seen coming already. But oh well.
Yeah, I also think like that would be definitely something that Filoni would do. Just a
Right.
little connection like that. I think like we've seen it all the time, and just would be like just one more little cool little
Yeah.
Easter egg. So I in my head, can at least I like to believe that's what's going on or what will happen.
Yeah. But speaking of cloning technology and clones, Omega has a little bit of a revelation for the team here. When they land on Kamino, to the nice sounds of the episode 2 Kamino track from Attack of the Clones, shout out. When they land in this secret sort of cloning facility with these tubes in this underground section, that Omega reveals that this is where she was made. That's where they were all made. All the experimental clones were made. Um, and this we got another line that she said, "Experimental Unit 99 began right here. I was there." So Omega is older than the Bad Batch, which is just when you think about it, it's like whoa. Because this whole time she's being raised, like I'm pretty sure we already knew that, but for her to like say it out loud, and then to stop and think about it, like they've been raising her, training her, teaching her things, and she's older than they are. She was literally there watching as they were being made, which is just crazy to think about. But I guess she I guess doesn't have the rapid aging that the other clones do.
Yeah.
So I guess it makes sense that she was there and then they just aged really fast. But technically, like in the amount of time that they have been in existence, um, not the speed at their bodies age, she's older than them, which I just kind of found funny and really interesting.
That's cool. Yeah, I never thought about it like that. But that, like, no, that definitely makes sense because she's just like Boba, where like she's unaltered or
Right.
doesn't have the age alter. So that makes perfect sense, but I never really like stopped and thought about it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
And then she just straight up says it in the episode. She's like, "Oh."
Yeah, yeah. No, but I also liked I said it jokingly, like new Camino lore just dropped. But I did really enjoy that. The secret underground tunnels, now let's say secret lab. It again, it's in character for the Kaminoans. They're so secretive and deceitful that something like this definitely makes sense. And having Omega be like the one to know where it is again makes sense. So just seeing all that, like new little piece of Camino right before its demise, I think was actually really cool.
Yeah. A couple other people pointed out that you have the Bad Batch, and then you have Omega. but there was more tubes in that room than just enough for them. Well, that would be five, right, for all of them, because Echo was a reg. So the four of the batch and then Omega, there was more than five test tubes in there. So were those just extra ones that they put in place in case they needed, or did they have the specific exact amount of, growth chambers for the amount of enhanced clones that they wanted to make? So there's a possibility that there's more enhanced clones, or there were at least more enhanced clones somewhere out there that we haven't seen yet. Um,
Mm.
very,
It
I
could
think it was like 12. I think there was like 12 tubes in there or something like that.
that could also be what Nalase and Lamasu were talking about. Like in the first couple episodes, their plan, and why they needed Omega back. They could have been trying to make more, um,
Yeah,
which will not happen now. But yeah, I didn't pick up on that. That's a
yeah.
cool thing.
But here's a little segue Omega into her.
Uh-huh.
There's one scene where she's outside in the wilderness. Well, not in the wilderness, in the Kamino and storms, and we see some really cool animation progression here.
Uh,
The rain, first of all, looked great. Like it wasn't just, you know, thinking back to old Clone Wars, I imagine how it would look back then. It was just like some animated rain or whatever. But this looked like real, and like it was moving, and there was like mist clouds going around,
yeah.
and like all the weather, and you could tell where the rain was coming from, like the wind. It just looked really good. And there was also a cool little detail where Omega, since she doesn't have a helmet, her hair got completely soaked, and you could tell her hair was wet. It was like a darker color, and it was like all stuck to her face, and it wasn't poofed out in any areas, which I thought was a really cool detail because especially in Clone Wars, there's a lot of times where like in the beginning anyway, you'd have characters like jumping and running and flipping, like Anakin's doing a backflip or something, or he's hanging upside down, and his hair is perfectly still, like, and it hasn't moved at all, even though he's like hanging upside down or something. So just seeing them progress in this animation style was just really cool, and we both noticed it right away when her hair was all wet like that. But there's a really cool detail that we noticed.
Yeah, we we say the animation gets better every episode, and it literally does. Like they pull out tricks like this where I don't think we've ever seen wet hair like that before in this art style, the Clone Wars art style. So it's like they didn't even have to do it. They could have just said, "No, yeah, that's not part of the art style. We don't want to do that." But no, they go out of their way to do the little flex and just say, "Yeah, we like
Yeah,
animation's good here," and I
yeah,
love it. I thought it was awesome.
yeah. One thing that I think was a little kind of a missed opportunity, and the whole show has been the Elite Squad. They were in the trailers, and everybody's interested about who these clones who have like gray armor with green visors. Ooh, what are they? And we eventually learned that they're probably the first recruited human soldiers into the Empire, one of the first group of recruits. They have that introductory scene where they all are talking to each other and saying, "Well, the Republic didn't give me this, so I'm fine with the Empire." All that like sort of build up, and they kind of just turned out to be like a couple big moments or like a punchline kind of, because the biggest things that they did, that like the most memorable parts of their characters, is when they died. Like the most memorable part of I think it was episode 3 in terms of the Elite Squad is when Crosshair literally kills one for not following his orders, and then the others eventually go along with what he says. In this episode, their big moment is getting shot by Crosshair's reflector discs. He shoots a shot and takes out all four of them. Um, Now I'm not expecting them to be like right up in the action, all the time. But I feel like maybe like a couple more scenes of them just being people, like, or just seeing what they're about a little bit, or them, in action. I feel like it really would have been a cool, you know, way of going about the story if instead of getting what we got, there was a little bit more, couple episodes of this elite squad, being elite and hunting down the Bad Batch or something. There's like some chase episodes or episodes where they're on the run from the squad, Crosshair and his squad together coming after the Bad Batch. But in the end, it really just kind of was Crosshair using them and Crosshair being sick of them and not really caring about them at all, and they kind of just died, and that's kind of it. I think one is alive, one escaped Kamino and got on the shuttle, but I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Uh, I'm very underwhelmed, just the same as you. We didn't even get names. A couple speaking lines, but no names. Not even TK numbers. And
I think they
unfortunately,
do, but they don't say them. Like it's ES1 or something like that. But that's not even.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
I have to say it. I get huge sequel vibes. I get Captain Phasma vibes. I get
Oh.
Knights of Ren vibes, where these guys look awesome. They're supposed to be awesome. They're an elite squad. You know, the Knights of Ren took down Luke's Jedi Temple, and we get nothing from either of them, except for a couple scenes, and we're just left to infer they're cool. I don't
Yeah.
like that. Show me they're cool.
Yeah.
It wouldn't take too much extra time. There's ample opportunity to show it, especially in a Bad Batch type show where it's a season long. I mean, I
Yeah.
would have loved to see these guys in action. I do have to say though, Crosshair killing them like that, I really liked it. I think those mirrors are
Yeah. It was
cool.
dope.
I don't really have a problem with that. I just like you would probably agree. It's the only reason I have a problem with their deaths is because there wasn't a lot before that. Like you were saying, their deaths are kind of
Yeah.
the biggest thing about them, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. You mentioned it. They kept one alive. I don't think that was an accident. I think it was a she, right?
Yeah.
I think she'll be maybe a villain or at least please a larger role in season two, which is confirmed. So I'm hoping out
Yes.
that they saved her for a reason.
I hope so. Like imagine one of them or a couple of them, actually being a character. And they get a couple scenes every episode where we slowly learn more about them. And then the whole group, goes after the Bad Batch and they confront them. I think being one of the first groups of human recruits into the Empire, it would be really interesting to hear their ideology, I guess, or their reasons behind willingly joining the Empire and talking to the Bad Batch. Like you care about this republic for what, or don't you see how much better this could be? And we kind of did get some of that with Crosshair, and I don't mean exactly that, but just having them interact with the Bad Batch, episodes where they're being hunted. They're called the Elite Squad, and like the only thing they do that's elite is like murder a couple civilians and then die. So I mean, I'm not buying elite anything because really, I mean, they didn't do anything that noteworthy. And you could argue that they're not supposed to be characters because it's just for the purpose of starting War Mantle, and like getting to the point where the Empire is recruiting soldiers. They're just because it makes sense that the Empire would do a test run first, experimenting with these soldiers. But at the same time, when they're so heavily, not heavily, but they're in the trailer a good amount. They
Huh?
were one of the things that people were most, questioning. Like, are these clones? Are these, stormtroopers? Is that Crosshair? Who's this one with the rifle? Looks like could it be Crosshair? Well, who are these guys? And then for them to just kind of be wasted, and that's not really a thing with this episode. That's more of a whole season thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not like they could. I'm still fine with their deaths. I'm still fine with Crosshair turning on them because he doesn't really need them. He sees them as like weaker or inferior. I guess I'm totally fine with that. Their death scene was awesome. My problem was not the scene itself. My problem was that it's like their only thing that's notable that happens to them. But like a couple scenes, or maybe take out some of those Sid episodes and replace them with like a couple episodes of this elite squad actually being an elite squad. I think that would have helped a lot because then, you have that little bit of background on them. It hits you a lot harder when Crosshair then just murders them all without hesitation. I think that scene could have been a lot more compelling than whoa, he just killed those guys. Instead, it's like whoa, he killed, but they were like really I don't know if they were characters a little bit more. I feel like that would have hit harder. Uh,
Yeah,
but,
I think it's just another missed opportunity,
yeah,
unfortunately. Yeah.
yeah, which sucks. But
Yeah.
something else that sucks is the fact that after this episode, we have lost Tipoca City. It has been destroyed by the Empire, um, using venators of all ships and clone troopers being the ones to fire the weapons. I j- uh, the that was definitely on purpose too. That one shot of the clone in the Venator manning one of the turrets or one of the monitors. That was definitely on in there on purpose for you to
Absolutely.
realize, oh, these are clones firing on their own home. Just like seeing the place empty when just all the memories that we have. Episode 2 when Obi-Wan's there, seeing like thousands of clones getting their armor, sitting in the mess hall, just seeing Jango and Boba, and then Clone Wars. Oh my god, the whole episode, like Defend Kamino, I think it's called, where Fives and Echo and 99 and Rex and Cody and the cadets are fighting against the droids to save their home. The whole arc with Fives and AZ3, where he, learns about the inhibitor chips, all of that. So much stuff just gone. Just absolutely gone. I feel like there's no other way it could have ended, honestly, because the Empire wouldn't want to keep that loose end
Yeah,
hanging around.
absolutely.
They would want to, have their own facilities and whatnot. But just this, and then they have the somber music starts playing while the batch is running away, and then they cut to the Bad Batch's room, or one of the rooms anyway. It looked like their room. Then we see the mess hall, and then the cloning facility itself, and then just Tarkin coming over the projector and saying his iconic line, "You may fire when ready,"
He
and
said the thing.
he said the thing. We finally had one. It's been a while. Um,
Yeah,
in our reaction anyway, but then gives that command and they just blow it to smithereens. Man, that was sad. I mean, we've already had a couple sad moments in the show, but I think that probably takes the cake for me. Um, just because of the nostalgia. Like, Kamino has been around since the year I was born. So, like, just I don't know, just all the nostalgia and the fact that it's been with us for so long, and
yeah,
just seeing it just get destroyed like that by the Empire, just absolutely heartless. Um, Press F to pay respects to Tipoca
F.
City.
Please drop an F.
Ah,
Yeah, I honestly, I was on rewatch. I was surprised how sad I was.
yeah,
In our reaction, you saw it. Me and Evan were devastated. All that nostalgia and everything. That little slideshow really got to me. Got to
ah,
both of
and
us.
the music just
Um, but I was thinking, I was like, when I feel nostalgia for Star Wars, right off the bat, I think stuff like Hoth or Coruscant or Naboo or places like that.
right.
But feeling so much nostalgia for Kamino, I think is a testament to Clone Wars. It
Yes,
just shows how much it has sympathized all of us to the clones and Bad Batch as well. And it's just that slideshow, they knew what they were doing. This has been Filoni and everyone else's project since the beginning, and seeing it end like this with clones killing their own homeland is just such a defeating moment.
yeah.
Um,
Watching Defend Kamino will never be the same.
it hurts
Oh,
so much, and yeah, if I never seen Clone Wars, I feel like I wouldn't feel this sad, which is in a
right.
weird way cool to me. It's
Yeah.
cool how much I feel sad to me.
Yeah, very very
Um,
small percentage of the total amount of people that have watched Star Wars stuff would feel this, and I feel like that's kind of special.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like them leaving it here, like ending the episode on such a low point. I said I wanted a low point. This isn't what I meant. But this is kind of exactly what
That final shot
I'm
with
so
three venators just firing and into this fireball, like oh
yup. But like we sink so low, and for next episode, I think we're gonna soar high. I can't wait because there's no way they're gonna kill off Tipoca City like this and not have a epic conclusion.
I,
They've got something
yeah,
waiting for us, and I think this more than anything confirms my theories of that.
yeah. I agree with you. I would love to be happy after that.
Yeah,
But at
yeah.
the same time, a part of me wonders if we could go even lower at
Ooh,
in some capacity, because that's
ooh.
some of the best storytelling when you can get when you can get the viewer to feel like they personally have also hit like rock bottom, and it's just
Mm.
awful. That is a testament to good storytelling. So either way, I guess it'll be fun, but I don't know, maybe Crosshair sacrifices himself to redeem himself in the eyes of his brothers or something, or Hunter sacrifices himself to show to Crosshair that they care about him, something like that. I don't know. I feel like it's possible, based on what we've seen so far in the show, it's possible that they go even lower and do something that just breaks our hearts even more, or come out with like a triumphant, victory, like a somber, happy ending, but at the same time we lost to Poca City and something happened. So either way is possible. I feel like, and I feel like I'll enjoy either way, because there is a season two, so it's not like, oh my God,
Yes.
everything is miserable and that's the end of the show. Like there is going to be season two at least. So either way, I feel like I'll be happy. Um, and if it's the sad thing, then I'll be happy after I'm sad. I'll be
Yeah.
happy that I'm sad.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's weird.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, checking through my notes here. I mentioned the Kamino music from Attack of the Clones, which was pretty cool. Um, Imperial venators we saw last episode, but just a venator with no Republic markings. Crazy. They should have just kept those. Screw the Imperial cruisers. Venators are where it's at. Just saying, but
Oh, I
whatever.
kind of, I'm very nostalgic for the Star Destroyers. So I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest.
You keep them both.
But yeah, both
Who
would be
cares?
cool. But I agree though, seeing Venators in all gray is very eerie.
Yeah.
Very eerie.
Same like with the gunships. Just seeing them in all gray. It's like
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
wrong. That is just objectively wrong. There needs to be the lime green and the maroon.
Yeah.
With a giant
Ugh.
shark mouth. But whatever. A couple more random notes here. I thought it was really cool to see the whole squad, just for a brief moment, fighting as a whole team. When Omega unleashes all of the training droids, like the proto Death Troopers, into the training grounds, and then Crosshair decides, well, he sees that, okay, there's no way out of this unless we all fight these guys together. Just that brief little moment in between the Crosshair is really depressed that you guys left him, and then Kamino getting blown up. In between that, we had a nice little happy moment. We're just seeing the whole batch fight as a whole team. I just thought it was really cool because you get that moment where you think Crosshair's about to shoot Hunter, but instead he turns and he shoots the droid that's coming at them. Just that moment, and then you realize, okay, it's on. We're gonna fight this as a team. Um, really made me happy.
Yeah, it heavy paralleled the first episode. When they're doing pretty much the same thing, fighting off all those droids in front of Tarkin. And
Yeah.
so it was a cool callback. But like everything has changed. The whole dynamic of the group and emotions and everything is different now. So just seeing something familiar but so new is like a
Mhm.
very compelling like storytelling element.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You mentioned parallels. This was an interesting parallel also to the first episode in the fact that in the first episode the batch is trying to leave Kamino, and they leave without Crosshair. And this time they're trying to leave Kamino again, but they bring him with them this time. Hunter makes it very clear, as like, no, he's coming with us this time when they leave. And I
Mm.
thought that was a really cool line, and just like a nice, nod, or not nod, but like a parallel to the first episode where they leave Kamino without him, and now they're leaving Kamino with him. Well, they try to leave anyway, because for all we
Yeah.
know right now, they're like buried under rubble. So,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah. Any other notes here? I feel like we should save a good chunk of time for our predictions, because that will be a bigger part of the video than it normally is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, let's hop right into predictions because
All
I
right.
definitely want to hear yours.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, Man, I kind of said a lot of them. I feel like I don't know. I'm gonna say that either Hunter or Crosshair will die. That's a very bold thing to bring up, but I'm thinking one of the two of them would be the biggest sort of emotional, moment, or the biggest plot, you know, device, I guess, because none of the rest really seem to make sense. I guess Echo maybe would be kind of compelling, but that would be more for Clone Wars veterans, not really for this show. So, I don't know. I also have like not really predictions, but just things that could happen. Like maybe this situation on Camino just like devolves further, gets completely out of control, is it possible that we see Darth Vader step in? And it's like, fine, I'll do it myself this place and just kind of,
Hmm.
I don't know, do something to try to just like a little cameo, you know. Um, it's just I don't know. We could see some of that possibly. I'm interested in seeing how the batch are gonna get out of this. Like, are they split up maybe by the rubble and they have to work together? Like, is it like Crosshair and like Omega are separated from the rest of the squad and they have to she has to try to convince them that they need to work together to get out of there. Um, Hunter could like sacrifice himself, like I said earlier. They don't really leave us with much. They leave us with Tipoca City has been destroyed. All of the characters are inside still while it's being destroyed, and it's very possible that they've just been entombed in rubble, and that's how they leave it. So, um, it's not like there's a huge giveaway as to exactly what's going to happen. But they could pull out. They could just go ham. They could throw in like Boba, the bounty hunters come back. Darth Vader as a cameo, or they could keep it simpler. But I think a big part of the episode will be in the beginning, at least. The batch trying to get out of the rubble and figure out what the hell is happening, trying to just get out of there.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard getting out. That's the biggest hole, I guess, in my predictions. I really don't know how they could survive. Um, I think maybe Omega has another secret tunnel or something in her back pocket. Um, but for me, my prediction is probably like the first half almost is going to be them escaping. Not just the rubbles of Tipoca City, but also the Imperial ships and everything, just trying to get off world. But after that, I think it's going to be pretty much Omega's episode. I think she, some way, is going to convince Crosshair to come back to the good guys. I don't know how she's going to do it, but I feel like we've been building her up so much this whole season that something big's going to happen with her character. Um, whether it could be, like you were saying, maybe Hunter dies and she uses that to bond the group together. Maybe Crosshair regrets that he had some action in Hunter's death, and that does it. I don't know, but I think no matter what, Omega is going to be really the star of the grand finale.
Yeah, that would definitely be really interesting. The idea that she, has to go through this, like you said, with a scenario where Hunter, dies or sacrifices himself or something. Um, that would be a really it'd be really interesting to see how she reacts to that and what she does. Obviously, aside from it being like very sad, um, but just
Yeah, right.
seeing if she can, because they definitely she's a main character of the show,
Yeah.
obviously. So, and she's like one of the newly introduced characters to the Bad Batch. So I definitely think it's possible that she is sort of the star of this episode. Maybe her and Crosshair as like a callback to that moment they shared in the cell together when she was like, I know it's not your fault or whatever. So there's still that, which clearly, I don't know, that could be some unresolved thing between them. I feel like Crosshair probably feels jealous of her in some way because she was like his replacement. Um, in episode 8 when they're talking, and as soon as Omega opens her mouth, Crosshair's like, fire at her, fire at the girl. Like,
Yeah.
so he's definitely like jealous or just angry that she exists and like I don't know, kind of took his spot with the team. She like took his family. So something between them two, or at least Omega, would definitely be very interesting.
Yeah, I think like it's gonna happen one way or another. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but I think Omega is going to solidify herself as the glue that holds the Bad Batch together. She's gonna be the
Yeah.
one to make them all into a family again and settle all the disputes somehow. I definitely think that's gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Oof. I guess we should go for like bold things, like bold predictions that will not happen.
Let's hear
Boba
it.
Fett making an appearance. Darth Vader will have a cameo when he comes to
Ooh.
save the day for the Empire. One of the batch will die, most likely Crosshair or Hunter. Uh, and I feel like those are pretty bold. But how about you? Some bold predictions that probably will not happen.
I'm trying to think. I feel like in the place they left it is so like barren for predictions.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like it's just
Yeah,
okay, they're stuck there. Now what?
yeah, right. I want to say something crazy like I can't even say Luke Skywalker's going to show up because he's like 3, not even. I don't know who. Like I want to say someone comes in and saves the day. It could be Rex, Ahsoka, maybe. I don't know who
I
could
feel like
because
Ahsoka would be kind of crossing a line for me. Rex, I
it
get
would be
'cause he's a
too
clone
much.
and he's
Yeah.
he's like a member. He's not a member. He's like an honorary Bad Batch member. He's like one of the regs that they actually like. He had a big, part of Order 66 because of the inhibitor chips, so it was kind of required for him to be there for the Bad Batch's chips. Because how else would they get them out? Who would they turn to? Ahsoka, I feel like kind of crosses that Clone Wars line to me. At the same time, if Ahsoka walks onto the screen, I would like crap. I would crap my
We're
pants. I
gonna
would be
lose it.
so
Yeah.
happy. But after the episode, after the fact, subconsciously, I feel like that kind of just crosses a line for me. I feel like that
Yeah.
at that point we're getting too much into. Let's see how many Clone Wars characters we can jam into this thing.
Yeah.
So Ahsoka, I don't know. Uh, I feel like Boba Fett, as much as it's an outlandish prediction, it could be a very legitimate prediction because they could very well be just trying to hype up the book of Boba Fett. Maybe just to remind people that Boba Fett's out there and to just, put Boba Fett into their minds subconsciously as being part of the universe going forward and then into his own series. So I feel like that can be a possibility. Um, Clone Wars, we also had a Vader cameo. So they have the animation model for Vader. So maybe like a quick little. I don't want him to be a character or anything. I don't even think I really want him to say anything. Maybe he could say a line or two if that were to be the case. But maybe Vader would be a very bold thing once eventually the full Empire kind of rolls in. Because that was the Clone Wars one. It jumped ahead in time a little bit, and we were just full Empire. Um, but I don't know. I feel like Boba Fett is probably the most realistic bold prediction considering his show's coming out in a couple months. But I don't know. I don't really
It's
know what the purpose he would serve would be. Maybe I'll say one last ditch effort to save Omega or something. I don't know.
I was gonna say, Fennec is his friend at least in the Mandalorian
Hmm.
times. And it is his home getting bombed. Maybe he does
Yeah,
show up and save the day.
and he blew Cad Bane's head off.
Yeah. So because that would be if there was gonna be like a big moment for me. I think someone's gonna swoop in and save the day to save them from the rubble. If that
Right.
would be like that would be my cameo. I don't know who it would be. Maybe Boba, but I guess that's my prediction. Again, like I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
I anticipate learning though,
Yeah.
finding out.
Yeah. But I think that's good for predictions. Like we said, there's not much to really predict,
Yeah.
I guess. I guess we can go into our sort of review. This was a great episode, one of my favorites easily of the entire show. Just the character moments between Crosshair and Hunter really brought it up there. The action was great. Them fighting in the training grounds, the emotion of the scene
Mm.
of Tipoca City. They did that so well with the music and just all of the details about it, like how it was venators and clones that were firing the cannons. The little slideshow they did of just the place being barren and empty after all we've seen happen there, being lively and clones and Kaminos running around. Um, so not even just the story, but the production of the episode was really great. Like we said, the animation was great. Characters had their moments to shine. Really, really good episode. One of my favorites.
Oh yeah, top episode of the season, no matter how good next episode is.
Yeah.
Um, the action was great, the story was great, everything made sense to me. But more than anything, it was the emotion that they put inside of it with the music, the little slideshow. I mean, the slideshow speaks a million words to me, even on the rewatch. So that to me cements this as like a very good episode.
Yeah.
And more than anything, honestly, I said it 2 episodes ago, or no, last episode, is that it gets me hype for the finale. I
Yes.
can't wait. And when I walk away from seeing an episode and saying, "Oh, I can't wait to find out what happens next," like that's a good episode to me, no matter what. So definitely top of the season.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about all we got. I mean, sorry if this episode seemed a little bit all over the place. I didn't really have, an outline. I just kind of had a bunch of notes and we just kind of rambled about what we wanted to talk about. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We have our playlist for all of the reviews and all the reactions for the Bad Batch so far. And next week or later this week, oh my God, it's this week.
Oh
We will
man.
have the finale of season 1 of the Bad Batch, our final reaction for the season, followed by our final review a couple days later. Let us know what you thought about this episode. Do you agree? Was it really good? Um, Make sure you stick around to the channel for our complete review of the whole season, as well as our ranking of each episode in terms of least favorites, most favorite, which we also did for season 2 of The Mandalorian. So stick around for that. Check out the reaction to the episode if you haven't already, as well as the other episodes. Um, yeah, thank you for watching again, and we'll see you in a couple days for the finale. I am very pumped.
Have a good night, my little lights.
Was that a Little Lights? Was that a Destiny 2 reference?
It was something.
Oh, goodbye. Little Lights.
My little lights.